Welcome to Module 3, Teacher Leaders. So glad that you're here. Just wanted to give you a quick flyover of Module 3 to make sure we're all on the same page and just make sure that we're ready to go for all the assignments and everybody's kind of clear on those expectations and kind of what we're looking for there. So wanted to sort of look at the first two module objectives, and particularly the first one. I really like this module objective, looking at the instructional and learning needs of teachers and also developing and facilitating the instructional and leadership capacity of teachers. One of the things that I have definitely noticed over the last several years as I've become more and more knowledgeable about teacher leadership, both in theory and in practice, is that we really need to support up and coming teacher leaders, whether they be formal or informal teacher leaders. We need to help administrators maybe identify people who might be interested in a particular topic or have a passion for something and just need a little gentle nudge to be able to kind of take that next step into teacher leadership. So I really like that idea of kind of facilitating the growth of that next round of teacher leaders and also supporting the ones that we already have. So when you look at the reading assignments for this particular module, you do have a couple things. First is the textbook reading here, page 51 to 107. So hopefully that's going well for you there. And also at the very beginning is a Teacher Leadership in Ohio and Executive Report. And this was part of the Ohio Teacher Leader Toolkit and was developed. And I think they did a great job with this. And they actually partnered with several school districts, including one school district that I know a fair amount about, which is the Aurora City School District, which is a very top tier school district in the state of Ohio and does some great things in the area of teacher leadership. And their current superintendent, Pat Sicantelli, does a fantastic job in supporting his teacher leaders with training and just also just in many different ways. And he has a lot of teacher leaders operating both formally and informally, or as he would say, positionally and dispositionally. You'll also see him in the video, in one of the videos that I have here. He's actually it's kind of spotlighted in the video. So he does a great job and is a great resource for any administrator or teacher who's interested in teacher leadership. A couple other things that are in here. They've got a couple of things about the organizational culture and structure of teacher leadership, and they're using the teacher leader framework for all of that. And I wanted to just scroll through this so you can see some of the things that they have in here. A lot of hyperlinks that you can use, some different things that administrators can do to advance teacher leadership. Also down here, as you go a little bit further, they've got some cool things about the components of teacher leadership. So you can see that, and also some quotes on the side here. And then as you go a little bit further, it talks about some concrete actions teachers can take to advance teacher leadership and all of the five kind of components or elements of teacher leadership, which I think is great. And then at the end, and you can find these in the Teacher Leader Toolkit as well, they have some case studies that were done in different school districts, like the Aurora City School District here, the Batavia Local School District, and these are even more so expanded in the Teacher Leader Toolkit. So this is just a general overview of that. So I think this is a fantastic document, and if you read this, you can kind of just see where we are as far as the state goes, and it really breaks down a lot of the pieces of the framework too. So that's a good read. I definitely would suggest it, and one that you can really put into action because I said it has a ton of hyperlinks and resources in there for you. This one here, really like this one, the roadmap to teacher leadership that works, leading from the front. What I like about this article is they talk a little bit about some of the changes that have gone on in the area of teacher leadership over time, and how historically a lot of the teacher leader roles were very formal, like department chairs and things like that, and had very rigid kind of structures. But as the current research is kind of showing, is that those roles are kind of starting to change. Teachers are not administrators. They can do administrative things, but they aren't just kind of a second in command of an administrator. They are somebody who can lead in different areas and are leading their peers in a very unique spot where they're not an administrator, but they sort of have some responsibilities that are outside of their classroom. So this is a good one. I really enjoy this article here. And then here's one to kind of challenge you a little bit. This is talking a little bit about professional learning communities and can you actually have successful online professional learning communities? So think about very large districts, or in our case, we have elementary schools that are all over the place, so multiple elementary schools, and we actually created 14 new grade level elementary school chairs. And these chairs actually lead weekly PLC meetings using their Chromebooks. So they use Google Hangouts for right now, at least that's what they're using. And there are some real benefits, bringing everybody together in a super easy format, but there's also some real challenges of not being face to face. And so you're going to see we're actually going to use that article for something, because some of you may be in a school district where that happens, or that may happen where they're going to an online learning community. So that's a good one to kind of be aware of. Okay, a couple videos for you here. You have a teacher leadership video here, teacher leadership in Ohio, and then two videos here on professional learning communities, which I think are extremely valuable. And any of you that have been a part of professional learning communities, especially good ones, you know how they can be really, really awesome. I mean, you can get a lot of stuff done and people bring things to the table, and you really feel like you leave there kind of invigorated and ready to go. If any of you have been a part of a PLC where maybe things weren't as good as you'd like, or maybe you had a couple tough meetings or whatever it is, you know that it can be very frustrating. So this is going to really give you some information about some successful strategies in terms of professional learning communities. All right, so the discussion question for this particular module relates back to that article that I was mentioning before, is do we think PLC meetings need to be face to face? We want to think about what your rationale is, and then I provided that resource that I mentioned a little bit earlier. And again, this is, some people would say this is kind of a philosophical question, I guess, if you want to put it that way, like, should we be face to face or should we be online? And here we are in an online program, and should we be meeting face to face, and all those different things. But really what we're looking at here is um, the value of maybe having an online learning community. Maybe even can think outside of your school district, where maybe you have a group of teachers from surrounding school districts who are able to meet every so often in a PLC type format. So don't think just necessarily within your district. Like, what if we could use online technology to be able to really expand our networks and really get people together to really grow the profession, and to think about school improvement and student improvement. So again, just kind of get creative with that when it's a discussion question. So a lot of great things to kind of dig your teeth into. All right, and then this last piece here is the adult learning audit and analysis. Now, if we click on this one here, I just wanted to go ahead and spotlight a few pieces of that one. So if we scroll down here and look at that adult learning audit and analysis assignment, what we're going to see here are a couple different pieces. So what I'm looking at here is a couple different parts. So we've got some things here where you're going to describe a professional development session that you have been through. If during the course of this class you don't attend a professional development session, then that's fine. You can use one that's kind of memorable from the past, either in a good way or a bad way, and analyze that one. That's totally fine. And we've all been through something, I would presume. So you're going to describe the session. You're going to think about what it was, what the objectives were, who was involved, how big of a group was it? Was it your whole district, or was it just a group of people? How long was it? What was your reaction? What were others' reactions? The mood in the room, kind of just describe for me, because obviously I wasn't there. So describe it for me. And then for the analysis and alignment with adult learning principles, you're going to consider the experience that you had, and you're going to kind of think about these pieces of what adult learning is all about. All right, now this is not an exhaustive list, but this is a pretty good one here as far as what an adult learner, at least as far as the theory goes, really is probably thinking when they're going into maybe a professional development session. So are these things being addressed, or were they addressed during that professional development session? And then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and dig into some research here. And I mentioned a little bit about Google Scholar before. You can use the MOG library databases as well. If you have any books or your textbooks, some of the reading that we've done already, any studies that you can find that relate to adult learning. And what you're going to do is you're going to make some suggestions for improving on that session. Okay, so if you could redo that session, or just make that session a little bit better, then go ahead and consider some of those things that the research is saying. Now, if you've got a quality PD that you went to, maybe you talk about some things that could enhance it a little bit. If you can't do that, then maybe just talk about how great it was and how it fit within all of these things. So if you're thinking about this picture perfect PD day that you had, then maybe you can relate it to all of these and describe how awesome it was. Okay. I know just recently I went to a professional development on blended learning by Marcia Kish, and she did a fantastic job, because my number one piece that I want to see at PD is I want to feel like a student. I want to feel what it feels like to go through an instructional strategy, or I want to feel what it feels like to learn something, so that when I start thinking about how I teach it in class, I know what my students probably are feeling and what I can experience. And I'm also one of those people, if you're the same way, I really have to see it in action and feel it to be able to really be able to reproduce it later as far as a strategy. So I'm definitely very much like a hands-on kind of learner in that way. So I would be able to probably go through most of these things here and say that she really nailed it. She did a great job on that PD session. And I left there, I was invigorated, and I was able to the next day incorporate some blended learning in my AP Psych class that I teach at the high school level. So it was pretty cool to see how that was able to be transported right out of that session right into my daily practice, which was cool. So very, very cool. So anyway, that's what you're going to be doing for that. There's also the rubric here, and then you should be pretty good to go for what you need to do. So again, I think this course really does a nice job of breaking down a lot of these pieces here, gets you reflecting and thinking about things. And as you go forward, I think you're just going to continue to learn some things that you can use every day in your practice. So so happy to have you here. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer anything that you need. Feel free to reach out at any time. Like I said, I check my email multiple times every single day, and I want to make sure I know in this accelerated class that you guys are supported. So if you need something, let me know ASAP, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. And we should be good to go. So I hope you have a great Module 3. And again, anything you need, let me know. All right. Have a great week, everyone.